My friends, while you're working today worrying about how to pay your bills at the end of the month, the fate of your financial freedom and your wallet was decided far from here. It was decided behind the scenes in Washington. Pay attention, Flavio Bolsonaro has just pulled off a checkmate in the United States that left the Palacio do Planalto in absolute silence. The system short-circuited and Lula is boiling with rage. Not because Brazil was attacked, but because his plan to suffocate our own country was exposed under the spotlight at the heart of the United States. Do you understand what this means for your wallet tomorrow morning? They're trying to hide this from you, but we're going to reveal everything. But first, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and like the video because it takes a lot of work to make. We keep track of the audience in the office. From the United States Trade Representative USTR. They are discussing the application of a brutal 25% tariff on Brazilian products. You who follow me already know about this. A tariff that comes from the Section 301 investigation, which started in July of last year. But wait, if Brazil is under commercial attack, do you think the federal government defended Brazil? Do you think Lula's diplomacy went there to fight for our jobs and your interests? Wrong. Lula chickened out and abandoned Brazil. The federal government didn't send anyone. Nothing. They carried out a quiet boycott. First, they said they would send spies just to listen, but not even that. They ran away from the confrontation summit. But why would the president of your country shy away from defending the country internationally? Because Lula not only was absent, but he actually supports these tariffs. The left's political project depends on poverty. He wants Brazil to bleed financially so he can play the victim of American imperialism. He wants the tariffs so he can profit politically from our misery. But he didn't count on one thing: the parallel diplomacy of those who really have access to the White House. But now let's translate what this 25% tariff really means. The left loves to say that this is just a normal economic war, or that it's the GDP's fault. That's a lie. This tariff isn't about trade, it's punishment. And I'm going to give you our ultimate metaphor so you can understand what's happening. What's being implemented today is the censorship toll. Burn this into your mind. The censorship toll. When Minister Alexandre de Moraes decides to impose prior censorship, take down profiles, silence journalists, and fine social networks, he's attacking the cash flow of American companies: YouTube, Google, Meta, WhatsApp. These are corporations headquartered in the United States and with a vice president in the White House. The institutionalized censorship in Brazil generates billions in operational and legal costs for these companies. Americans don't accept losing money just because a bureaucrat in Brasilia doesn't like being criticized. So what's Washington's response? Unlike the leftist Lula government, which only serves the interests of the JNF group of Josley Batista, JBS, the American government comes down hard in favor of its jobs and its business people. And in this war, the American response was Section 301. They imposed a 25% tariff on Brazilian products. And the one who pays this bill isn't the minister, isn't the president, it's you. When Brazilian steel gets more expensive abroad, the factory here lays people off. When exports stall, the dollar skyrockets. When the dollar skyrockets, the food on your table, the gas in your tank, and the technology in your pocket all double in price. I'll give you just one example of a product that's in your house every day and is pegged to the dollar. In other words, its value is quoted in dollars. If the dollar goes up, it gets more expensive. If the dollar goes down, it gets cheaper. Do you know what it is? Wheat. The bread you eat every day is priced in dollars, my friends. So you are paying the censorship toll with the sweat of your labor. Your freedom of expression is being taxed. And the Lula government applauds this behind the scenes. But it doesn't stop there. The American report also attacks institutional corruption in Brazil, directly citing recent decisions that annulled billion-dollar fines. And the American logic is cold and irrefutable. If the Brazilian government chooses to buy from companies that are friends of the king, forgiven by the courts instead of running fair bidding processes, American companies lose the competition unfairly. And once again, the ones who pay the price for corruption are the Brazilian people who get worse services at inflated prices. And we have the cherry on top of state hypocrisy. Look, it's a good thing you're here now because you're going to find out about this. Ethanol. Growth Energy, the largest biofuel association in the United States, went there to ask to keep the tariffs. Tariffs against Brazil. Why? Because Brazil, which proudly claims to have the most efficient sugarcane in the world, imposes absurd taxes on ethanol that comes from abroad. And we pay almost a quarter of the price of Brazilian ethanol just in taxes. It's 18.7% ICMS plus 5.6% PIS and COFINS. Not to mention the cascade of indirect taxes and labor charges the government digs into your pocket. They make domestic fuel more expensive, block cheaper foreign fuel, and then complain when the United States decides to retaliate. Did you get that it's never about protecting the people, but rather the king's friends and the elite who run the country? And a very interesting study came out this week showing that the elite in Brazil who manage to build wealth and have the most assets aren't the business owners. They're not those super rich people who give courses. No. Do you know who they are? Judges, notary office holders, diplomats, and public prosecutors. They manage to have the largest fortunes in the country. And if you think the problem ends with the tariffs and censorship, wait until you see what Flavio Bolsonaro did in this hearing that made Lula furious. What happened was an unprecedented diplomatic humiliation for the Palácio do Planalto. Flavio Bolsonaro didn't go to Washington with his hat in hand to ask for a postponement of the tariffs like the Brazilian government would do if they had the courage to show up. In fact, a few days earlier, I myself said here that Flavio would ask for a postponement of several days, but they changed their minds. He went there and demanded the complete cancellation of the penalties. He proved to the American committee that imposing 25% tariffs in 2025 is actually rewarding the Brazilian authorities, who are causing the problem while punishing the population that is already suffering. And he touched on the most sensitive point of the whole hearing, the PIX. The left's narrative tried to spread that Americans want to destroy PIX because it threatens credit cards. That's a lie. The Brazilian senator dismantled this narrative in front of everyone. He showed that PIX is a tool for inclusion. It brought millions of people into the formal economy, and more. The use of American card brands in Brazil kept growing along with PIX. The tools are complementary. The real problem that the Americans point out about PIX is not its existence. It's the state's bureaucratic barriers. For an American company to use PIX, it is required to have a CNPJ and CPF. It needs to open a branch in Brazil. And to open a company and get a CNPJ in Brazil, it needs to pay billions in taxes. And facing the Brazilian state bureaucracy practically makes any operation unfeasible. If a Brazilian company wants to use Zelle in the United States, which is similar to PIX, it just needs to open an account. Do you understand the difference and the unfair game that Brazil ends up playing against other countries? Well, you yourself, I'm sure you would like to have an imported car, those big American pickup trucks. But they arrive here in Brazil costing the price of an apartment, of a house, 500,000 reais, 1 million reais. The bureaucracy of the Brazilian central bank is a wall against the free market. And the real solution that the Americans understood perfectly is not to tax Brazil, but to privatize PIX. Take control out of the hands of the central bank and put it in the private sector, removing the shackles of the state. And that's exactly what Lula is desperate about. He saw the opposition act like true dominant statesmen, shaping the international narrative while his government hid under the table. Now, pay close attention to this real quick, because what's at stake now is our territory. The traditional system loves to promote emptiness, superficiality, and shallow narratives. But we built something completely different together here. We formed a community of elite analysts, people who see how power really works beyond the headlines. And we have just been nominated for the Ibeste Award in the political influencer category. This is the exact moment to show the brute strength we have here. And this isn't about vanity, this is a demonstration of power. It's time to prove to the algorithm and to the market, to the establishment, that deep technical and objective analysis has a strong army behind it. Well, the official link to vote is here in the description and in the first comment, and you can vote every day. Yes, we need to stay in the top 10, top 20 until the end of the voting. So vote every day. I'm calling on you now. Stop what you're doing, click the link, cast your vote, and show the overwhelming strength of our community that already thinks outside the echo chamber. My friends, there is no coincidence on the global power chessboard. What's happening in Washington is a reflection of a plan to control Latin America. Brazil's current political system depends on isolation and poverty. When a country is closed off, regulated, and impoverished, the state becomes the only provider. The citizen becomes a hostage. By abandoning the defense of Brazil there in Uncle Sam's land, the Brazilian government is committing a crime against our own economy. They want the industries to go bankrupt. They want agribusiness to lose its competitiveness abroad. Because that way, they can point the finger at the United States and say, look, capitalism failed, you need the government. They do this with Cuba. The excuse is that Cuba is only in misery, broken, devastated because the United States sanctioned Cuba. Well, either you follow the rules of the free world or you can't trade with the free world. And does the free world require freedom for its citizens? Freedom of speech, the right to come and go, and free elections? Didn't Cuba have that? Doesn't Iran have that? Didn't Venezuela have that? So my friends, this is what happens when you try to impose a dictatorship within the free world. And this has a name. I want you to join this battle of narratives right now. Type exactly these words in the comments. Internal sabotage. This is the key. Internal sabotage. In our analysis today, the attack doesn't come from outside, it's facilitated by those who are inside. Leave a comment so the algorithm can see how strong our community is. Internal sabotage in capital letters because the Americans' final report comes out now on July 15th. The Trade Committee will issue the final document recommending the 25% tariff. But the final decision, the final stroke of the pen, won't be made by a bureaucrat. If the schedule moves forward, that decision will fall into the president's lap, Donald Trump. And Trump has the pen, but the Bolsonaro family has access. And that terrifies the system. Can you imagine Brazil being saved by the Bolsonaros? Yeah, my friends. Imagine the anger that Lula and Yanja are feeling inside the Palacio do Planalto. They even say that Lula threw a mug at the wall and it shattered into pieces. Yeah, my friends, pay attention now. We just analyzed how narrative and communication dominate the geopolitical chessboard. In the business world, the rule is exactly the same. Today, the most valuable currency for a businessman isn't the dollar. Look, it's people's attention. Have you noticed how hard it is to get people to consume serious and professional content on social media? Look at what I did to reach you. It seems like the system was built for empty fluff. Nothing but dance clips. Silly dances and pointless memes go viral, while your excellent product stays invisible. I used to think the same way. 15 years ago when I started in this market, everything was different. I started on the radio, then moved to TV, and that's where I understood the unchanging mechanism. True authority necessarily depends on substantive content and a solid strategy. Today, we generate more than 50 million views per month here on our networks. Our content is fully monetized in dollars, and we don't do dance videos. We build authority. And many entrepreneurs want their service to be recognized, but they still haven't understood that the game now is all about media. Look at what CIMED did to triple its sales in Brazil. A pharmaceutical company that understood it needed to become a media company to command attention. The CEO of CIMED reached 1 billion views on social media. So my friends, this is no joke. The game is for the big players. For those who think outside the bubble. Look at old Davin, he never stops opening stores. He put his face out there and is making real profits, even under Lula's government. Reality is harsh. Your identity can't be outsourced. The business owner needs to show his face. And to show your authority, the time of recording with your phone in the dark and waiting for customers is over. This space now demands killer professionalism. If you want to make the algorithm work for you, increase your margins, and reach elite clients you can't access today, I've created the solution. On July 12th, I will host a fully in-person intensive face-to-face with me in my professional studio with my team in Curitiba. I will personally guide you in the precise construction of your authority in this digital world. But I'm strict with the numbers. There are only 10 seats. When the 10th spot is taken, the door closes. So point your phone right now at the QR code that appears on your screen or access the secure link that's in the video description and in the first pinned comment. Secure your spot immediately and shield your communication. If you're tired of searching for a cool series or good movie to watch with your family on weekends without bad influences or drama, you just can't take it anymore. But there's so much junk, you spend an hour on Netflix just to find something good. I solved that for you. We created our own channel for series and movies with daily and weekly tips on what to watch, what's good out there for us to watch today. We deliver that to you. All you have to do is click the link in the description, in the pinned comment, and on the card that appears here on screen. And don't forget to vote for Shimon Oliveira at the eBest Awards. The link is also in the description. Click there. There, feel free to vote. And remember to vote every day to keep us among the top 10 political influencers in Brazil. I'm counting on you because it's not just for me. It's for our community, for the conservative movement. There are only a few conservatives who are recognized. And even more so, those who defend the existence of Israel and who stand up for the free world. So I'm counting on you. Now subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Like the video because it takes work to make it. Protect your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you at our next meeting. Until then.